Good morning, everyone. Please be seated. A couple of years ago, my husband Steve and I were driving down a neighborhood street on an afternoon during Advent, and were taken aback by the amount and magnitude of Christmas ornamentation on lawns and houses. Light bulbs, little and not so little, covering bushes and fences, climbing up trees, strung along eaves, piles of lit-up gifts with huge lit-up bows, inflatable snowmen, perhaps to replace the real snowmen that children would build before climate change deprived us of real snow, large candy canes lining driveways and sidewalks, Santa and his reindeer on roofs and the tops of chimneys. Indeed, pride of place on a healthy majority of the lawns was given to Santa, sometimes accompanied by Mrs. Santa, or a bevy of elves, or what looked like a complete herd of reindeer. At several houses, inflatable Snoopy dogs figured prominently. One extended to the roof of the house and was internally irradiated head to tail by powerful lights. Accompanying Snoopy in one yard was a Donald Duck the size of a dairy cow and, unsurprisingly, sporting a Santa cap. There were very few nativity scenes. The only one I saw featured a cradle, Mary, Joseph, and who else? Santa Claus. The Holy Quartet, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and the big guy in a red suit. I wonder which of those four personages the homeowners considered to be the holiest. Then, as Steve and I approached an intersection with a main town avenue, we saw something that took our breath away. There across the avenue was a house without any decorative lights, or Snoopies, or Santas, or big boxes of lit-up presents. There may have been a wreath on the door I don't clearly recall. What I do recall clearly, and will for the rest of my life, was a large, plain wooden board propped on the lawn near a streetlight, and hand-painted on it were the words, "Patiently waiting." Patiently waiting. Waiting in stillness, in contemplation, perhaps in prayer, waiting in a quiet corner of the home, waiting while one walks through late fall sleeves now mingled with slushy snow, or along a sunny path, waiting in a state of inner quiet and composure, clearing the mind of the usual holiday stresses and tensions, the cookies to be baked, the gifts yet to be purchased or wrapped, the Christmas card list, whether the aging artificial tree needs to be replaced this year, whether to use the best china on Christmas Eve or the everyday dishes, whether to invite that loud-mouthed election denier uncle for Christmas dinner. Patiently waiting, waiting for the babe who will arrive in the stillness of deep night, listening for the wordless whisper of God, reassuring us that the Christ child is indeed coming and we are safe, watching for the coming of the light, not the light of Christmas decorations, but the inner light that the child will bring to our lives. God comes to us when we are still. The things of this world, including the things of Advent and Christmas, as those seasons are observed in our society, make it difficult to hear God's voice and to sense God's presence. The real gifts of Christmas are not jewelry or hockey sticks or the latest video game. The real gift of Christmas is God's presence. and God's presence can be lost to us unless we slow down, quiet down, and patiently wait. Teresa of Avila, Spanish saint and mystic who lived in the 16th century, understood that paying attention is essential to the spiritual life. She wrote, "There is no need to go to heaven to speak with our eternal Father, nor is there any need to shout. However softly we speak, he is near enough to hear us. The Lord is with us, and we must be there with him. If I had understood as I do now that in this little palace of my soul dwelt so great a king, I would not have left him alone so often." An anonymous poet from the 15th century made pretty much the same point when he or she said, "Could but thy soul, O man, become a silent night, for God would then be born in thee and set all things aright." The way that we in this society prepare for Christ's birth deprives us not only of spiritual riches, but irreparably damages God's creation. All those extravagant displays of outdoor lights, the bulbs and snowmen and Santas and reindeer and all the rest of it, they use enough electricity to power a Guatemalan village for years and, incidentally, contribute to the urban light pollution that obscures the stars that shone so brightly on the night that Christ was born. All those presents we give each other, produced mostly in Asian and African and Latin American sweatshops by adults and young children who labor for pennies every day of the week. All those presents that are not needed and which end up in landfills where their synthetic materials persist until the end of time, and whose production and delivery fill the air with carbon emissions and poison the 7 seas and every terrestrial ecosystem with microplastics, and create mountains and mountains of trash from wrapping paper and ribbon and bows and gift bags bound for ever-expanding landfills or polluting incinerators. A study by Columbia University a couple of years ago found that Americans produce 25% more waste than usual between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, sending an additional 1 million tons a week to landfills. And in the age of COVID, when many people order gifts online, even more waste is generated by mailing packages around the country. In addition, over 2 billion Christmas cards are mailed every year, using enough paper to fill a football field 10 stories high. More than 38,000 miles of ribbon are thrown away and usually end up in landfills. Over the holiday season, Americans discard half their total yearly paper waste, mostly holiday wrapping and decorations, about 9 million tons. So this year, and in the years to come, let us try to observe Advent and Christmas in ways that comply with our responsibilities toward God's creation. Let's abandon those excess lights and decorations and consumer goods with their destructive impact on the planet, which is collapsing under the strain of our obscenely wasteful way of life. Instead, let us patiently await the child's coming and remember that Jesus rejected the accumulation of material things and instructed those who would follow him to give what they have to the poor. On Christmas Eve in 1951, NBC affiliates around the country broadcast the first opera that had ever been commissioned for television. The opera, called Amal and the Night Visitors, is about an impoverished little boy named Amal and his mother who offer a night's rest in their cold, bare home to the 3 wise men who come seeking the Christ child. Amal is lame and uses a crutch to walk. The wise men show Amal the gifts they are bringing to the child, and the mother and her little boy cry out that they too want to send gifts. But the mother has nothing to give, and Amal has only his crutch. So he offers his crutch to the wise men to give to Jesus, and his lame leg is miraculously healed. In response to the mother's expression of regret that she has no gold to send to the child, one of the wise men tells her, "The child we seek doesn't need gold. On love and love alone he will build his kingdom. His pierced hand will hold no scepter. His haloed head will wear no crown. His might will not be built on your toil. Swifter than lightning, he will soon walk among us. He will bring us new life and receive our death. And the keys to his city belong to the poor." We thank you and bless your holy name, O gracious God, for giving us this season of quiet and peace, ripening into great joy with the coming of your Son, our Redeemer. Amen.